This has always been our land. Though for a time, we were pushed off, exiled.
Hi, Darren. Thank you so much for talking to us. So let me start off with, why KCK? This could be anywhere. Why KCK as a location?
So what's really exciting for me is coming back to Kansas City, where I grew up and I was raised. And, we're doing this interview right now in JUCO, where it was the first college I went to before KU. But my love for horror started in Kansas City. It started in the West Bottoms. I went to all those haunted houses from like 7 years on. From when I was 7 years old all the way until after college, I would go to Edge of Hell every single year. And it kind of defined my childhood. So, now that I've made a few horror movies and I've made a few more horror experiences, I wanted to come back to KC and show them what it's like on the other coasts. One of the things that's kind of bummed me out coming back here every year is the haunts have stayed the same. And it's time to inject new life into it.
That's awesome. And, how do you think how is this, what's marketing, we call it point of differentiation. How is this different than the other haunted experiences that are in the metro area, which kind of have somewhat of a following the last few years? How is this going to be different?
So Exiled KC, I went to it last year with my family and one of my best friends, and we loved it because it felt a little different and it felt unique and it felt dangerous. It was in the middle of nowhere, and I just never felt safe. It was the first time. I mean, you go to Edge of Hell or you go to these others, which I grew up on. I love them. You're surrounded by thousands of people. They're outside. There's a line of 1,000 people. When I went to Exiled, I was traveling in the middle of nothing, farmland, and it immediately set the mood that something sinister could happen. Mm-hmm. But what I do and what I've been able to do with my career is to approach narrative storytelling in a completely different way. And so much of haunts are just people jumping out and screaming. They put on rubber masks and they jump out and scream at you. That's not what we're doing. I have really fallen into this space of what's known as immersive theater, which is kind of like Westworld, where it's an open world. You can say and do whatever you want within reason, and the actors will respond and adapt to it. So in the case of Exile, there are so many different ways to watch it and uncover it. And your experience will not be the same as the person you go with. You guys could be put in totally different directions, see totally different things, and have totally different experiences. And the hope is that you'll go back and you'll have a completely different experience the second time. So I think that it's a kind of this hybrid. It's a hybrid where, yes, it's scary, yes, it's a haunt, but it's also like you're living inside your own horror movie.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's of course we have different audiences. There's of course the family audience. I have an 11-year-old. Can I is it something which is okay, you know what? You can go with kids, or is it just something okay if you just have to be 21 plus? What are your recommendations?
Sadly, kids are not welcome this year. I really wanted to push the more adult agenda. Okay. Here's the thing. I have 2 kids. I have 2 young kids. I think Halloween is a chance for everyone to be a kid again. And I think that so much we live in this world where, we're inundated with mortgages and electrical bills and traffic jams. I seek out experiences now. I want to seek out these things that cannot be downloadable, cannot be watched on your cell phone, where you have to be there and you have to be present. And so I wanted to create an environment for adults, like an adult playground. I think they recommend 16 and up. I say 21 and up because this is more extreme and more intense than a lot of haunts. A huge component of it, there is a bar, there's alcohol. It opens into this really kind of adult carnival when you show up. And the content is going to go over a lot of people's heads, children's heads, of what's actually being said. Because again, it's not relying on the classic jump scare. Those are in there. But you're actually having to interact, and some of the interactions are pretty extreme.
That's awesome. So, for those planning a visit, adult playground, date night, fun, but what's your top tip for anyone who's planning to go to fully experience the experience that's being planned?
For anyone that's showing up for the first time to go through something like this, I think throw out any expectations, throw them away. Let yourself be and become step outside of your comfort zone is what it is. Again, we live on guardrails. We live by these, conformities that, we have to do on a day-to-day basis. And the idea is Alice in Wonderland. You are stepping in the rabbit hole and coming out into this fictitious universe with crazy characters. And I think the more you allow yourself to enter this world and be a part of it, the more you're going to get out of it. So, one of the things that always kind of bumps me is when I go to haunts and people are, trying to be tough guys or, trying to pretend like they're not scared, and they don't have fun, and it's not fun for the actors. And I think if you allow yourself to enter our world and you allow yourself to become part of it, you're going to have an extreme, insane experience. Unlike anything else being offered in Kansas City this year, for sure.
That's awesome. And like West Bottoms, we know kind of have their own kind of history and their fan following. And this is KCK. So where do you think, like you mentioned about the farmlands and the vast expanse, but as a destination, for someone traveling to KCK, let's say for the weekend, like what do you think sets KCK apart?
Well, I'll tell you, growing up in this area and then driving around now, it's crazy because there are all these pockets that I am still discovering now, 20 years later. I was born here. I'm 44 now, and I'm still finding these insane things like, example, like in Bonner Springs where this thing is set, I just discovered downtown Bonner Springs, which is this idealistic, very quaint, cool community. But then 2 miles away, there's super targets. And I also I'm a big fan of dive bars. I'm a huge fan of dive bars, and I found some of the coolest dive bars in KCK. And I just love knowing nothing about it, showing up and going in. I don't want to say I'm an alcoholic, but I do enjoy dive bars and drinking. I don't know. This is, living on the West Coast and then coming back here. It's a different universe. It feels like a different world. And I think what's exciting is that so much, whether it's LA or New York, you're inundated with different variations of the same thing. What we're trying to do is do something that you can't get anywhere else. That, if you're going to do one event this Halloween season, this is it, because there's nothing else being offered like it in anywhere around that I know of.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know you mentioned dive bars, and we kind of claim that we have the best dive bars.
Yeah.
So any favorites? Like, do you remember any?
There's one on the way to the haunt, and it's called KOBI's, I believe, Kobe's. I've spent many an hour there. In fact, one of the things that we do, which is really, I think, cool and fun, is we've been flying people in from out of the state. So one of my things about living in this area is that I love how in the last couple of years it's been put on the map in kind of a big way. A lot of thanks to Taylor Swift, the Royals, the Chiefs. And again, this is a catch-all term because you have Kansas City, you have Kansas City, Missouri, you have KCK. But, the Midwest is become this thing that people talk about now. Austin, Texas, about 20 years ago, there was this big boom where all these artists descended on Austin, Texas. Now it's like second Hollywood. And I think that this region could become that as well, with arts and entertainment. So I have been spending a lot of time, because I think when you go to a dive bar, you get to know the people who actually live here. You get to hear the music they listen to, what they actually think. So I'll just literally grab my laptop and go. And there's a place just down the street from the haunt and I'm 95% sure it is called Kobe's. I'm gonna fact check that just so I can give them a plug, because I was gonna tell you what we're doing. So this is crazy. So we're flying. Let me find the name and then I'll tell you the story.
Okay. Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, Kobe's Bar and Grill.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
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 One of the things that's really cool is that we are taking people outside of their cities and states and bringing them here. And one of the things that I think this is going to do is people are going to travel in for this experience. So yesterday we flew a participant, someone that's playing this thing from Los Angeles, put them in the back of an SUV and drove them. Mm-hmm. And they had no idea what was going to happen. And they ended up in a dive bar called Kobe's Bar and Grill, where this scene takes place. And so imagine, you go to Edge of Hell and it's confined to that building. Mm-hmm. Ours spills off into everywhere. Mm-hmm. There is a mecca inside Exiled KC, but if you are active and a participant, it spills outside. It spills into parks, into parking lots, into dive bars. So yesterday we flew someone in, and the entire thing took place in this dive bar called Kobe's, which I loved.
That's awesome. Like, if you get a chance, we would highly recommend the dive bars in Strawberry Hill. You've got an entire pub crawl there. That's awesome. Yeah, and I think Yeah, the other thing I think some of our team members wanted to know is, you called it, at least the press release called it the living, breathing unit. And so you mentioned about there's no jump scares, but kind of...
Well, I'll go ahead. Exiled KC is different than any haunt. There are jump scares. People will jump out. You will scream. But what makes this unique is that you are encouraged to interact with it. So many times there's what's called a conga line when you go to a haunt, which means that there's someone in front of you and there's someone behind you, and you can hear the people jumping in front of you. And so it's hard to ever find yourself truly scared. We are really trying to choreograph this where you are spaced away from other people and you actually have interactions with the actors. They'll ask you questions. They'll make you do tasks. So it's not just like you're walking through and seeing a scene, they jump and you go to the next scene. You might be walking through and they pull you out, make your friends go and make you do something 2 scenes down the thing by yourself. So, and also you have missions and tasks. So when you're in the carnival, for example, there's a cotton candy, someone selling cotton candy. If you go to the cotton candy person and buy cotton candy, she might give you a mission to do inside the haunt, but you're the only one of your friends that has that. So now you have a task that you have to have done while you're going through the trail. So it changes based on you and how you interact with it. You get to make choices.
That's great. And, I think we can conclude here, but maybe if you could kind of just give us a little bit of a one-liner, 2-liner greeting that we could use, like, hey, if you're in Kansas City area, you're not coming to Exiled or something, in your words, like an elevator pitch.
Hey everyone, this is Darren Lynn Bousman, born and raised in Kansas City, and I am back here right now. Some of you may know me from my movies. I've directed a few of the Saw films, but I'm also huge into live theater and scary attractions. So if you're in the Kansas City area, you need to go to Exiled KC. It is a haunted trail that I am a part of, and I am lending my talents to, in trying to make it the most scariest, nefarious, fun, drunken night of debauchery in the region. So exiledkc.com, get a ticket and come hang out with us.